Good day and welcome back to the Automotive Society Podcast. This is your host Siraj, and today I'm joined by Alex.
Back. Thank you for having me again.
Hello. This is part 2.
Yep.
Of the greatest cars ever by one single manufacturer and one car per manufacturer, please. Thank you very much.
Hey, you broke those rules already.
I said or, okay? It could be one or one, that's one. You choose one.
How many ors can you have? You can have like 3 ors and just have...
But you choose one, right? So that's one car per manufacturer. So I haven't broken any rules.
Fair enough. I can't argue. All right, moving on. What's next on the list? Because I haven't cleared my list off.
What's next on the list? Let's start with Euro again, because we ended up with Jap last time. We did like 4 Jap in a row. So maybe we do 1 Euro, 1 Jap, 1 Euro, 1 Jap.
All right.
Okay. So starting off with European cars. This is the one that you really wanted to talk about, but I have no interest in, is Alfa Romeo.
What do you mean no interest?
I like Alfa Romeo, but I don't think I'll ever want to own one.
They're great. I mean, I've never owned one, but I've driven them and they're
great at being infamous a lot of the time.
You talk about character, just have an Alfa for a day.
Maybe if I drove them, I would change my mind. That is true. I don't think I've ever driven an Alfa.
Never? Ever? We're going to change that.
Oh, actually, I drove the 147.
GTA V6? Or
yes.
The twin spark 2 litre?
No, I believe it was a V6.
Okay, yeah,
it was
great.
a trade-in at our dealership.
It was a great sounding engine.
Well, it was factory, so I couldn't really hear it much, but it was good. It was a good car.
Awesome car. Understeer city that car is, but really cool. Really
I didn't push it hard enough. I only took it around the block once.
But you know what? I'm going to start off. Greatest car. And this is controversial because I feel like everybody thinks the GT V6 is the greatest car.
Oh, why would you say that?
I don't want to argue with it, but for me, it was the Brera V6.
The Brera.
The Brera.
The Brera.
If you remember it. It was that 2-door, but it sort of had that bubbly back on it.
Yes, I think so. I will be doing a quick Google as we speak.
Oh my gosh. Call yourself a car person. You have to Google it.
Well, I'm not an Alfa Romeo person, and Alfa Romeos are not a car, so that's a different story.
What are they then?
I'm a car person. I'm not an Alfa Romeo person.
Fair enough.
Difference. You see?
So you're actually Googling this right now?
I have to Google it because I don't know what.
And you have to make sure it's the V6.
Yes, I'm typing in V6 as we go. I see it. Ugly as.
It's not ugly.
This is the ugly duckling.
It's not the ugly duckling. Not at all.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
It's such a good looking car.
Yes.
So unique. It's very Italian.
Yes.
It's very, very Italian. But this car was great. They did it in a 4-cylinder petrol and a V6. And this V6 that they put in it was brilliant.
Wow,
it wasn't quick.
It's actually fairly new. It looks like very 90s styling, but it's actually... this was in 2007.
Yeah, but look, it wasn't quick. It was just... For me, Alfa went through this period where, moving on from the GT V6, they went through some more mediocre cars. And they... Out of the blue... I mean, I think at the time there was...
They went downhill. Is that what you're saying?
They went downhill.
They went
downhill, right? And they were just making more mediocre cars at the time. And the Brera was the thing that just popped out of nowhere and went, this is V6, 4-wheel drive. The styling is so funky. So cool.
If by funky you mean not great, then yes.
No, it's great.
I do not agree with you on that.
You just don't agree with me because it's so unique. It doesn't look like any other car.
Good looking car.
It doesn't look like anything else that has been made recently.
I'm glad.
It's just so cool. I really like it. I really, really like it. And you know what? It's probably one of those cars that I would like to buy and just have on a weekend. And just...
I just need the viewers to search this up. It's the Brera V6.
Yeah.
The Brera V6.
Yeah. Very cool. I feel like most of our listeners are probably like JDM lovers.
So they'll agree with me because they have a brain.
Probably, but I feel like when you really look at the essence of Alfa Romeo and what it really is, Italian, just a little bit stupid. Oh, it's great.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit stupid, right? So it's meant to be a little bit raw and a little bit obnoxious.
Yeah, and then sort of You always notice on Alphas, there's always one little thing broken, right? But they're always different.
One little thing broken.
They're always different on every car you go to. They can be made in the same factory, same everything, but there's always one different thing wrong. And
does that say anything about the brand?
Well, see, that to me is character.
Character.
Yeah.
Character. Unreliability.
Yeah. So you've cracked your front lip on your Evo?
Well, that's not unreliable.
Is it cracked?
Yes.
Right.
What's
okay.
that got to do with it?
So you said that's character. That's why you enjoy owning that car. It scrapes.
No, that just means that's why I'm now less scared of scraping the car in the future because I've already broken it.
Right. Okay. But same thing with Alpha, right? Things break, things go wrong, but it's excitable. It's a great car.
There's a lot of options out there of cars that break a lot and are better cars. You know what? I would dare say that the BMW is a better car.
What do you mean dare say? Of course it is. 100%. I bought one.
I know.
I spent money on that.
Yeah, and you keep spending money on that.
I know, it keeps going. Sinking bit.
Even when you don't want to spend money on that, you kind of have to spend money on that. But
all right, hit me with yours then.
well, now mine seems boring and
Why?
shite because I chose GTV6 and
Awesome car.
you've already crapped on it twice by being like, yeah, I know it's a good car, but the
It is a
Carrera
great car.
V6
It is a great
greater.
car. Honestly, if I could get my hands on a clean example, one of them.
But did you know that the GTV6 didn't have synchros?
Really?
I don't think it did. I think it's one of those cars where you really have to. It's either that or the synchros went on like day 2 of owning the car.
See? But it depends what model, because sometimes they went on day 3 if you bought a different car.
I think everyone complains about the synchros in the GTV6 and how shifting gears is actually a lot harder than it should be.
Oh, I can honestly say, like, I've never driven one, but I've been in one while driving, and you're always searching for gears all the time.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
And
it's definitely character.
But I did make a joke to someone. I said, well, how's like the gearbox? Like, how's second and third and third and fourth? He goes, third. I said, yeah, what about third gear? And he goes, I'm still looking for it.
I lost it in 1970. Back in my day, we used to have this gear, but yeah, it doesn't exist anymore.
But yeah, Alpha for me.
Alpha
Just
for you.
Pure Italian. And one day I will own one.
New Alphas for me. Giulia. Love the Giulia.
Giulia, great car.
Love it.
Awesome car.
Love it. Have driven one and did love it.
I've driven what's the top model? The Quadrifoglio.
I have not driven that.
It's the Giulia Quadrifoglio.
No, I don't think I've driven that one.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the V6, the 500 horsepower twin turbo thing.
Yes.
And a mate of mine who rocked up one day and said, here's the keys, give it a go.
Yeah. I think we talked about this
amazing.
last time, and that's the one car that I really want to try that I haven't
Such a great car.
have never driven, but I really want to give it a go.
Such a great car. All right,
Yes.
what's next?
Moving on to JDM. This is one that you didn't know what to talk about, and I'm gonna say Mazda. Yeah. And you didn't know what you wanted.
I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
Because, look, there's some great cars. I mean, yes, as much as I wouldn't own an MX-5, I can admit they're a good car, right? They've made the RX-7.
What's so good about it?
The MX-5?
Yeah, what's so good about it?
It's just so underpowered, it's fun.
That's not a reason.
It is.
You
know
can't
why?
say it's
It's
underpowered, it's fun. That's like a Corolla's underpowered.
Yeah, but it's not fun. A Corolla's boring to me. I think the MX-5, I think the reason why I quite liked it when I drove yours is the fact that you're absolutely ringing it, right, in first gear, and you pull it into second. You're going for the red line again into second.
Yeah.
And you look down at the speedo and you're doing 60.
Yes.
Right? You're doing the speed limit. But that's fun.
That's fun.
Great fun, right?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I daily my MX-5 now, and I could not have a better car to drive every day.
I think the one, though, for me that I guess this is my one Mazda that I really, really like, and I can't really explain why, but it's the 20B Cosmos.
Cosmo.
Is it Cosmo? Cosmos?
Cosmo.
Whatever it is. But such a cool car.
Yes.
It's just,
yes.
And I would, you know what? I would want one in an automatic.
I think what you're talking about is the JC Cosmo, the 20B, and yes, you can only buy it in automatic.
Yeah, a lot of them have been manual swapped, but I would want like an original automatic because they would be silky smooth.
If I was to buy one of those cars, I'd definitely want to buy it in original condition.
Yeah.
Although good luck finding it in original condition.
Yeah, that's hard.
Also with the 20B, most people just steal the engine out of them.
Yeah.
Not anymore though. I think because you can still factory buy 20Bs.
But that, to me, that always just stood out. I just went, that is a car we didn't get much in Australia. It seems like there's not heaps in Japan, but you can still find them.
I think there's more in New Zealand than there are here.
Yeah, but New Zealand's known for rotaries. Shout out to my homies back home in New Zealand.
New Zealand is very good with rotaries. I do agree. I'm a big rotary fan, for those who don't know. Love rotaries. Love them. And you wanted one at a certain point in your life.
I did. Almost bought that. I remember you and I going up, and it was a bit of a dodgy one, wasn't it?
That one was
because
a bit
at
dodgy.
the time it was very cheap.
It was.
We talked him down from about 16, 17 to, I think we got to 11,000.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this car just needed so much work. It wouldn't properly start. It wouldn't really idle that well.
I think it was a great car in today's standards.
Yeah.
Especially for that price. That price is insane. 11 grand for an FDRX7
Running
FDRX7 with a single turbo conversion.
Yeah.
And was it bridge ported? It had some sort of port on it.
Yeah, it was ported.
And it had a Microtech ECU. You're talking like that today, you're looking at least 50 grand.
Yeah, it was one of those cars though, and you'd probably agree with this, that whoever, not necessarily the guy that we went to go look at it at, but even the previous owner, it just seems like everything was a bodge job.
Yes. It was like shortcuts were taken.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want in a rotary.
Yeah, and it wasn't ideal for me at the time. And I was young, right? How old was I? 18?
Yeah.
And
I think we were both too young to own an FDRX7.
Agreed.
Like I couldn't have taken care of it back then.
Yeah, and eventually we ended up buying the Supra actually instead, which was actually a great choice. I really, really enjoyed it.
I think that was a good choice. Yeah, the 2JZ was a great engine.
Such a good engine.
That's another car that went up in price anyway. So they're both the same sort of halo cars. When you look at like JDM halo cars,
yeah,
they're both right up there.
Right up there, 100%.
So yeah, it was a good choice. We got sidetracked very much.
Very quickly.
My Mazda choice, speaking of rotaries, will be the RX-7.
Which one?
Now, this was a tough choice. I personally own an FD, right? So I think I'm a little bit biased in this way where I say... So how I did this greatest cars thing, right, was my main thought was, if I had the money to spare, what car would I buy from this manufacturer? And that would be the greatest car for me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the one that I desire the most.
Yeah.
And obviously for me, it wasn't the FD because I already own one. So this is a bit biased. But I think the FC is an amazing looking car.
I think it looks great.
Like
so
aesthetically, cool. I think it's so 80s, 90s. It just suits... It suits the badge, the name. The rotary engine, like it's a funky engine, but it's a funky looking car. So I think it does it justice. If any car was to do the rotary engine justice, it's definitely the FC.
I really liked it. You know why? Because the FD was that point where things were getting like a little bit 90s, right? 90s,
yes.
2000.
Yes.
And I think it's a fair comment to say that when we got to the 2000s generally within the automotive industry, right? Everything was sort of a bit... It just got toned back a little bit, right? The 80s were a bit crazy, a bit nuts.
Yeah.
And the FC was that gen where it was still sort of late 80s, early 90s. And it was just such... Even the interior.
Yeah.
So cool.
So cool. So cool. Series 5s came with a 13B single turbo intercooler at the top. So it had a hood scoop.
Yes.
Going into the intercooler. That is so cool. You do not see that today.
Yeah.
You will not see... unless you buy a Subaru WRX or like...
But they're not rotaries, right?
But they're not rotaries,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So like, unless you buy something like that, you're not really going to get an intercooler at the top with a hood scoop. That's just one of the features. It had pop-ups where not only just any pop-ups, it was one of those pop-ups where if you didn't like pop-ups or you didn't want them up, you didn't have to have them up.
Yeah.
Because it had the lights at the bottom in the front bumper. So if you turned on your lights but didn't want it to pop up, that's fine. You can still have headlights at the bottom.
Yeah, I like that. That was
That's
really
sick.
cool.
You can choose whether you want your headlights to pop up or not. Just because you want light doesn't mean you have to have them up.
And you know what? I am a big fan of RX-7s. I really am. But I think the one for me is just the OG Gen 1 12A.
FB.
Yeah. And I mean,
The SA22.
again, I'm a little bit biased. My dad had one in red.
Yep.
And it was, according to my dad, he loved it. He was like, it just sounded so good. It was so smooth. And according to my sister, it was probably the most unreliable car he's ever owned in his life.
Yeah, the 12As weren't known for reliability.
But it was just, you know what it is? It's like where the saga started,
Yes.
right?
The FB is amazing. I do agree with you. I think they're great cars, and I would still own one if I could.
Yeah, they're just so hard to find a good
100%.
example. And when you do find a good example,
They're so expensive.
so expensive, right?
I don't know what happened. Well, I don't know what happened with any
COVID
of
prices happened.
any of the car market, but yeah, FBs and FCs used to be the crap cars that people wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
People used to get rid of them for nothing.
Yeah. They were a couple grand.
Yeah. Like FDs were worth something, but when I say worth something, they were worth like 15K to 20K.
Yeah. And now you can't find a good one for less than what, 50?
50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you buy one in Japan, by the time you get it imported over and do the compliance and stuff, it's going to be 50.
Yeah. And we will do an episode on that at some point.
Yes.
We're currently in the process of, I say we, in our greater group,
yes.
of bringing something over, but we'll surprise that at a later date. Is that a fair enough?
I think that's fair
Is
enough.
that enough of a taster, you think?
Some car was bought in Japan and
Yep.
it will be shipped over here. We will do an episode going through all the compliance and the importing process, how hard it is, how long it took.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. That's a future episode.
Yep.
We might have a guest coming over for that
Yeah.
one.
We'll see how we go with that one.
Yeah. So that'll be good.
But great. Honestly, just rotaries and Mazda, it just goes hand in hand. And even more interesting, I mean, they're bringing it back for the year of 2022.
Yeah, it just got announced today, actually.
And you know what? I was so excited to hear this, but I'm not very happy with the application of it.
I don't mind. I think because rotary parts will be manufactured again, which means the old rotary parts will be sort of more in demand as well.
Yeah, and for those
I'm
people,
hoping that they start making the old stuff again as well as the new stuff, because the production's there. They may as well make a little bit more.
and the application for it, correct me if I'm wrong, is to go hand in hand with an EV car.
Yes, it's meant to be a range extender. From what I know from leaked rumors in the past, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's meant to be a one rotor engine that's size of a shoebox. So it's tiny.
Okay.
It sits in the boot and it's a range extender because rotaries are so smooth and the smallest little package makes so much power that they are very, very suitable for range extenders. And because they can sit there at a constant RPM just spinning away,
Yep.
it makes it more reliable. And I know that Mazda did a few patents, filed a new
Like the patents
for it, for having a more reliable setup and a different apex seal and different setup. So it's something that'll be interesting to see. And if it's actually reliable and makes decent amount of power for what it does,
Yeah.
it might get adopted into aftermarket and be made like, into a 2-rotor or a 3-rotor at a giant scale.
Yeah, and I also read, look, I don't know if this is true news or not, because I did just read the article, but it didn't confirm it from Mazda, but they are putting it with the Mazda CX-30, I believe it is.
MX-30.
MX, CX, whatever it is. It's a little hatchback thing
MX-30.
with suicide doors.
Yes. I'm keen. I still like it. I think it's still cool. Even as a range extender, I think the idea is really cool. I didn't ever see a rotary engine coming back with today's emission laws anyway. Do you know how hard it would be to have it be suitable for today's society to have a rotary?
I mean, they're working hard to make it happen.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And when petrol is worth $2.10, goddamn.
No, I can beat you. Paid $2.18.
Why?
Yeah, Cost me $110 just over
That's insane.
to fill my tank.
That's insane. Yeah, $50 in my little MX-5 gets me like half a tank.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
That sounds insane.
But that's enough of the Mazda rotary. What's next on our list?
Um,
Sorry, we're getting sidetracked today.
yeah,
aren't we?
jumping back into the Euros.
Yep.
We're gonna go into the VAG.
The VAG.
The VAG. For those of you who don't know, it's the Volkswagen Audi group.
This happens every episode, doesn't it?
What?
There's
The
always
VAG?
just there's always just something that. Anyways, moving on. Let's not bring that up.
No, it's just how I flirt with you. It is. But yes, the Volkswagen. And what is your hot take of this Volkswagen?
Mine's old school.
Very
Old school. Yeah.
Let me guess. Does it start with an S?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I know I had a Scirocco, but no.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
it. For
Continue.
me, it was a car I almost bought. And actually, funny enough, when I first bought my first car, that red E30 hunk of crap that I had,
Yes.
I loved it, right?
Yes.
There was one car I was on the edge of looking and buying it just before I bought my E30.
Ooh, I don't know what this
and
is.
yeah, you don't know this story. Oh, maybe you do. Maybe it's been a while, but
No, I don't think I do.
it was a car that it was so close. I just didn't have the money at the time, and it was restored and really well looked after. But that car went, and it was just one of those cars at the time that just weren't coming up for sale. And my E30 came up for sale, and I bought it. But it was a Mark II Golf GTI.
Ooh.
Not the Mark 1. The Mark 1 was a great car. I felt like
Yes.
that started all. But the Mark II was the one where it really got refined and got better.
Yes.
And there was one for sale, and I remember this, $4,000. It was restored. It had BBS, and it had a couple rips in the seats, but nothing massive. 2 owners since new. I can't remember how many kilometers now, but $4,000. And I really, really wanted it at the time. And I just couldn't pull the money quick enough. But that was one
Dang.
of those cars that's when its hot hatches really became for the normal person.
Yeah. That is a cool car. I do agree with you. Mark 1 and Mark 2 Golfs.
Yeah.
They're one of the legendary cars now. Like
100%.
people want them everywhere, but they're really hard to find. But the good thing is when you do find them, they're fairly cheap.
Ish.
I don't
Ish
think
now.
they've shot up as crazy amounts as most other cars.
I did see one for sale for 45,000.
45. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I take that back. I take that back.
But I mean, this is a mint condition, fully
Yeah,
restored.
yeah.
It had 160,000 Ks. You can tell it's been looked after very, very well.
I'm sure there's heaps of grandmas out there that still own one that have had one since new and
There'll be a
wouldn't-
barn find out there somewhere.
Yeah, wouldn't care about letting it go
Yeah.
for cheap because let's be honest, they probably bought it for really cheap.
Yeah. And they're just
Yeah.
going to keep it.
Yeah.
What's your Volkswagen?
Mine is a out there choice.
No.
Shout out to one of our friends as well. Who used to have one of these. I'm gonna choose the Bora.
Bora.
The Bora with the VR6.
Okay. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, the Bora came with the VR6, which is a 15-degree V6.
Can you just put it in English terms for someone like me?
Okay. Well, normally if you've seen a normal V6, like let's say out of a Camry or whatever,
Yeah.
the angle in the middle is
The V angle.
the V angle
Yeah.
between the two banks is normally quite large.
Right.
I can't tell you the exact angle off the top of my head, but it's quite large. Is it 90 degree?
It's
No.
big.
No, it's definitely not. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's big, right?
Yeah.
But the VR6 to fit into a small package,
Yeah.
they made the V into a 15-degree like valley,
Right. Okay.
which is quite revolutionary in the engineering world because it makes life a lot harder.
How come?
Um,
Again, in like really basic terms.
well, to fit everything, right? Like you have to have the two banks, and if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
I think they only have one set of cams.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But they did make really good power. I mean, from memory, they were what, 200-ish, 220 horsepower?
Yeah, it was
Something like
decent
that.
amount of power. Talking more about the Bora. It's a all-wheel drive, four-door
Also-
sedan.
It sounded so cool.
It did sound so cool.
Such a good sounding engine.
I think it's one of those cars where it really doesn't matter what kind of exhaust you put on it. It's going to sound sick regardless.
And it's one of those engines that was just pure raw engine noise.
Yes.
Whatever application it did have. And you just don't get that these days. When I do hear one drive by, I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Not so sure I'd own it.
Very rare. Very
Very
rare.
rare.
Well, basically, it looks like a Jetta, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a Jetta.
Yeah.
It's a Jetta with attitude.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's cool. It does the job. It's not the same 3.2 liter VR6 out of a R32 Golf. It's a 2.7 liter VR6. But I believe the block was stronger too. Yet again, I'm not a huge Volkswagen boy. But we can definitely get someone on the podcast who is a Volkswagen boy and used to own one of these and knows about it a lot more.
So I think out of those two choices, though, I must admit, my Mark II GDI wins that.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of those two, I'd rather own a Mark II. But the Bora was a really cool car. Our friend took it with us to the track day and I got to sit in it. And oh my God, it still goes like hell.
It's still quick, right? Yeah.
It's an all-wheel drive sedan, but you never expect it, right? It looks really boring, but it does it so well. It's crazy.
Yeah, great. And what's the next one? I think we're going to cover, in my opinion, we're going to go at Porsche.
Porsche.
Yeah. Or Porsche.
Porsche. Well, since you suggested
I'm intrigued. You have Porsche? Do you say Porsche or Porsche?
I know it's meant to be Porsche. I just say Porsche
Okay.
because I'm lazy. Yeah, since you suggested it, you're going to go first.
No, I suggested it, so you go first.
No, I suggested the other ones. And
All right. I'm not going to say who's wrong, but it is you. For me, it's the Porsche Carrera GT.
Porsche Carrera GT.
One of the best sounding engines I've ever heard.
I think Porsches do engine sounds very well regardless.
Really well.
I think most of their range is very well sounding. So that is definitely not a complaint anyone ever has about Porsche.
No, but it's just the Carrera GT was just one of those. It's one of those like things that at the time when I was growing up, right? When I heard it, I was like, that sounds like nothing else. It was just so different. And it's one of those cars that I guess they're still around, and I have seen a couple, but they're just when I get some money.
When I get some money.
If I get some money.
Oh, these are all the cars that we all wish to have, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I had a poster on my wall growing up
Yeah.
of a Carrera GT. It was that. It's just such an awesome car.
It is an awesome car. I do give you that. I went the more affordable option.
911.
Well, actually,
Is it 911?
it is a 911. It's a 944 turbo.
Well, it's not a 911.
Yes, that's not a 911.
What are you on about?
What am I on about? I don't know. 944 turbo.
Yeah, sick. I like that choice.
That is a choice I had. And you know what? This is really weird, but it is almost exactly the same as my Mazda choice. Because they look almost exactly the same. They stole the styling off each other.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
The 944 and the FCRX7 were very similar.
I liked it. It was that era, right, where they were just moving from boxy to a little bit curvy.
Yeah. They definitely looked very similar. I think Mazda tried to copy Porsche. I think that's where it started from, where they wanted to go towards more Porsche.
Yeah. But try find a 944 turbo today, right? It's close to near impossible.
You can't find the turbo one, but you can definitely find a standard 944.
You can find a standard, yeah.
I saw one in Western Australia sell, I think 2 years ago, and I think it was like $9,000. And it was left-hand drive.
Okay, that's a tricky one here in Australia for people who don't know, but left-hand drive cars to register here are quite hard unless they're of a certain age.
Yeah. And I think that was awesome. It was like a weird brownie color.
What, like a baby diarrhea brown?
Yeah, but I think that suits the 944. I think if any car was to pull it off, it's the 944.
For that era, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the only one that pulls it off.
So according to car sales, there is only 4 in all of Australia on car sales.
turbo or standard?
944 turbos.
Turbos, okay.
The cheapest one is $48,000.
There you go. I'd say that's affordable.
Well, you know what? This is the car that I'd be really happy with, this particular one, because his name's Frank in South Australia. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
But it's got 398,000 Ks.
Whoa.
And you know what? Like, you know that is a proper driver's.
Frank's really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Like that's how they should be. I mean,
That's how they should be. Yes, they're
that's how
not
it should
garage
be,
queens.
right?
But they weren't that expensive, right? They weren't meant to be. Porsche didn't make them to be special. Porsche made them to be the shit Porsches.
Yeah, they were the one for the average person,
Yeah.
right? And they did really well because before that, I don't know if you've heard about the 924.
Yes, I did. And I love that one too.
Do you?
Yes, I did. I really love the 924.
Do you know where they got the engine from?
No, what's the story to it?
Well, they pretty much pulled the engine out of a van,
That's okay.
right? And they put the van engine into the 924.
I'm hoping it's a high torque engine.
It's not.
Oh.
Has that just ruined your hopes and dreams of a 924?
I still like them. I would still own one if it came my way, but yeah, it ruined it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and that's the thing that killed it for me.
But they were really good for grassroots racing.
Yeah.
Grassroots motorsport, 924s and 944s were really up there. Really underrated cars, so it was really good to pick them up cheap. And they weren't banned from any series. 911s are banned from most grassroots motorsports.
Yeah.
And I totally don't blame them, you know? 911s are crazy fast and crazy sporty. When you're versing it with, I don't know, an old Datsun, it's kind of unfair. So the 944 wasn't that. The 944 was nice. It was good in every way.
Yeah, cool
for
car.
us. I'm not entering a GT3 race, so I don't need a 911. Basically, is the fundamental logic that I'm going with.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What's next? We're doing Jap. I think it's Jap. I think we've just done €2.
Ooh, a Jap. I think the only Jap left to talk about is Subaru.
Oh God.
Subaru.
Not that I hate Subaru, but questionably one of the worst sounding engines. Pretty much all their flat. Sorry, I say flat boxes. I'm just not a fan.
Yeah. We just went from Porsche to Subaru.
Yeah.
From flat to boxer.
But the thing
A lot of people get them confused. A lot of people think they're the same.
they're not.
They're not very
not.
close at all.
Nope. Completely different.
Yeah.
But you know what? Subarus are so popular in Australia.
I think they're popular everywhere. Even in America, they're popular.
Yeah, I mean, modification wise, yes. But I mean, if we're just talking about the general person who lives around and not interested in cars, but a lot of people buy Subarus.
Yeah, they're still popular in America as
Yeah.
an everyday car, and same as Japan. Subaru is just one of those cars that suits the all-rounder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially someone who doesn't know about cars. It's a 4-cylinder. It's very good on fuel economy. It's all-wheel drive, so it's very good in the wet or the snow or, in the winter months as well as the summer months. You can take it sort of off-roading. The suspension's quite high. There's no downsides to a Subaru.
Generally, no.
No.
Generally. And it's one of those things that, like, as long as they're well maintained,
Yeah.
right, they run really, really well. But the minute one isn't well maintained, just run.
Yes.
Pretty much, I mean, you're the mechanic, but that pretty much sums it up.
Pretty much sums it up. But
Yep.
that's most cars, right? Actually, that's a lie. There's always Alpha and BMW, which you can take care of it all you want. They'll still break.
But funny we brought up Subaru, right? So I was talking to a friend of ours who, I'm not going to mention his name, but we both know who it is. He's got a black one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a piece of crap, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But it does still run, and it's like a 2004 Subaru RX something or other.
Yes.
Right? And I was in the car with him the other day, and he goes, "Look, like my car still works. Like I barely use my car. That's the reason I haven't upgraded."
Yep.
I went, "Okay, fair enough." And I said, "So, but obviously he's driven it up to Foster when we went camping, and we've He's driven it all over the place.
He's driven
long
it
distances.
everywhere.
And I said, when was the last time you serviced it? Do you know what he said?
I remember the last time. I was the one who serviced it.
Yeah. Well, I said, how many years? How many years would you say it is, roughly?
Me,
Yeah.
I serviced it in 2015.
Okay, that's about right. He said 6/7 years.
Yes.
And he said it's still running brilliantly.
Yes. He hasn't serviced it since 2015. He hasn't changed the tires since 2015.
All the brakes.
And he drives like a hoon.
Yeah.
And
He's
think
not that much of a hoon.
the
but
only thing I've done on that car since 2015 was replace a drive shaft. Because CV boots on Subarus
they go all the time.
all the time. So I've replaced the drive shafts, the front ones. I remember that. And that's about it. I think that's all I've done.
Yeah, in 6 and a bit years.
Yeah.
We're getting sidetracked. Sorry.
And, just, I think this is really important when you
Yeah.
talk about his car. He bought it for $200 and a PlayStation.
oh, yeah, I forgot about the PlayStation.
Yeah.
He had a good deal there.
Yeah. A PS3 and $200.
That's a good deal.
That's how much he bought it for in 2015. And it had been abandoned for 5 years.
And it's still going.
Yes. Yeah. And it's still going. So it's an Impreza.
It's funny you talk about, by the way, the PlayStation bit. Because I had a guy I used to work with, and there's no other way of putting it. He's a tight ass, right?
Right.
When he buys a car, he'll run it to the ground
Yep.
until it dies, and then he'll get rid of it.
That's it.
And he turned up one day in a different car, and it was a Toyota Echo. No,
Yeah.
was it an Echo? No. Sorry, it was Daihatsu Applaud or something or
Oh,
other.
that's sick.
Okay. And I said, how much did that cost you? And he goes, nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? He said, I bought it for a 6-pack and a handshake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a barn find.
I know. That's a freaking barn find. I think it had 280,000 Ks. It was still going.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, off topic, but back to Subaru.
Back to Subaru.
Yeah.
I went the generic route. I went the...
Subaru WRX STI.
I think that's the only car that they really, really did, you know? Like, when you think about Subaru, that's all you think about. All you think about
But
is
they
Subaru
did the
WRX.
Brumby.
I know they did the Brumby, but the Brumby is slow. It has characteristics, but it's too small to be a good ute. It's too slow to be a nice driving car for the highway. It's too small to be practical.
It was just one of those ones awkward in the middle. You'd only buy it if you think it's, you're like, cool, that'd be awesome to own a Brumby.
Yeah. But it's really not good at anything. It's kind of like a jack of all trades where it does all of it, but a little bit of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's one thing. The other
what
thing is
gen of WRX, though?
Hawkeye,
Hawkeye. So that's like your 07...
2007.
07 to 2010 or something, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I would be buying.
That's my favorite. That's the greatest. Yeah. When you think about Subaru, you only think about the rally.
Yeah, but it's
The
you know
rally
what?
legend,
It's just still
Colin McRae.
yeah, but it's just still it's one of those cars for me where the engine just
No, I think the engine is great. I think when you think about a Subaru WRX STI
it's more the sound for me.
as a everyday driving comfortable car with a little bit of power and performance, it's a
Yeah.
great car.
Yeah, and
If you leave it stock, it's a great car.
for me, I think the greatest, and it's not the WRX STI, but it is a Subaru Liberty GT.
Ooh.
Because I just think it was one of those cars it was a Subaru, I guess it was influenced by the Impreza,
Yep.
but it just had more of a everyday feel to it. And especially if you could get one in a manual. I mean, they're nice. They were comfortable. They had leather.
They are nice.
Dual climate control back then for a Subaru. It was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Sunroofs.
That's true. So you like it for the practicality,
I just really liked it because it
the
was
comfort and the practicality.
that's it. And it was just
Yeah.
one of those things that you could just get in and drive, but you could still enjoy yourself.
But you can do that in a WRX.
Yeah, the Liberty
They're just
for
as
me,
comfortable.
the Liberty for me just had that little bit more premium feel to it.
Okay. I see that. I see where you're coming
The
from.
seats were a bit nicer.
Oh, I like the WRX buckets.
See, I didn't want the buckets back then. Back then, it was like, the leather comfortable seats. That's what I wanted. And it was mass produced. Like, they were everywhere.
I
back then.
don't agree with this. I don't agree with... firstly, I'm not a big fan of leather.
Yeah, I know you're not a big fan of leather.
You slide around too much. It's too hot in summer and it's too cold in winter.
But you're not going fast enough.
Well, what about the too hot and too cold? We live in Australia.
Yeah, okay. I must admit, I hated getting back in that. Like, when you sit in one in the black leather, after being sat in the sun, it's not great.
It's not great.
It's not great at all.
I don't know. I would stick to a WRX. If I was to own a Subaru, that's the only WRX I would own.
So expensive now.
No, I think they're the one car that didn't go up that much.
Like a Hawkeye.
Yeah.
How much are they?
I think a Hawkeyes you can get for like 20.
Nah.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, way.
More than that.
You
sound very confident with that.
I know you can definitely buy the one before the Hawkeye for like
what
15.
Is it? The Bug Eye, I think they call it?
Nah, not the Bug Eye. There was one between the Hawkeye and the Bug Eye, wasn't there?
Nah. Went straight to that.
Bug Eye? Bug Eye is the one with the round headlights, is it not?
Oh, no, you're right.
There is another one.
There is another one in the middle.
There is another one in the middle.
You're right. You got me there.
And I think that one is like 12K or like 13K. That one's really cheap.
Yeah, they're cheap.
What is that, 2005?
There or thereabouts, yeah, I would say.
2005-ish, and I think they're really cheap. And the Hawkeye is, upwards of 20, but still there, still pretty cheap. I'd buy one. Considering for 40K, you can buy a 2016 STI.
Yeah, but it's got that cult following, Subaru Impreza STIs have always had that bit of cult following.
Yes, and I think they deserve it. Except for the tuning scene. I know they're really big in the tuning scene, but I really don't think they're really good for performance mods at all. You spend 3 times, 4 times the money on performance mods, only to realize that it makes 200 and something kilowatts. I think it's very underwhelming. And it's very unreliable the more you mod it. Like, really unreliable when you mod it. They're so good factory. Subarus were known for their reliability, Like, Foresters used to go to like 500,000 kilometers.
Oh, yeah. They went for a long, long time.
Yeah, and that was good. Like, Subaru and Toyota and Honda are the 3 that were like the trifecta of reliability. And they were still cheap, and they went forever, and they were good. But as soon as you start modifying a Subaru, forget about it.
So I'm just looking right now, right? So we're looking at the Hawkeye sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's one here with 180,000 Ks for 37 grand.
What?
So they've gone up a little bit.
37 grand.
There's another one with 180,000 Ks for 25 grand.
Okay, there you go. That's what I said. 20s.
Looks very clean.
Yeah, upwards of 20. That's 20s. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I said.
You said about 20.
Yeah, you'll talk that 25 down to 23, 22. That's about 20.
Typical. Always talk them down.
Oh, you have to talk about never pay the asking price.
Never pay asking.
No.
Never pay asking.
Yeah. So I think we have to switch.
I think we've covered Subaru pretty well.
I mean, there's only 2 cars to cover.
I know.
It's not even an argument in that.
You know what I'm waiting for?
There's only 2 cars.
Is someone from like the Subaru like owners club or whatever they have here, right? Message the Instagram page going, oh yeah, but what did you think about this one and this one? All the ones that we don't know about.
The ones no one cares about.
Yeah. But Subaru owners can be like that sometimes.
Yes. I see that. I see your point.
You know what I mean? Subaru owners always have this thing of saying like...
But I feel like I have to have a little bit of a rivalry against Subaru because I drive an Evo.
Yeah.
So naturally, I have to not like Subarus.
So what we're saying here is out of all the cars that we've discussed today, Subaru's your most hated.
Oh, nah. That's saying something. There's a few Euros in there, and I think I'm not a big fan of Euros in general.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think, does Alfa Romeo count as a car? Because then I hate it.
What? You can't hate an Alfa Romeo.
I can hate an Alfa Romeo.
No, you can't.
I can, and I will, because they're not they're not cars. They're not anything. I'm speechless when I try to even insult an Alfa Romeo.
Why?
There's nothing good about it.
It's because you lack character.
What is characteristic about an Alfa Romeo?
Everything.
Maybe I have to drive one.
If something goes wrong, right, you think to yourself, you know what? The man who built this, Lorenzo, right, was out having wine with his, hot girlfriend on the Italian waters, right? And you think to yourself and you go, that's why I bought this car.
That's
because Lorenzo built this gearbox or built whatever it was that broke.
He didn't do a good job.
No, he didn't do a good job, but that makes it fun to own.
Lorenzo, you add character, blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
That's what makes it.
I think we're going to wrap up with one more real quick. And the last one's Lamborghini.
That was a very simple one for me. I'm a big Lamborghini fan. And I think by the time we can afford a Lamborghini, electric vehicles will be a thing.
Yeah.
And petrol will be through the roof. So we're never going to get one. I'm going to say the Diablo SV.
Good choice.
I grew up with that as my poster car. So, yeah.
Good choice. For me, it's always been one of two.
Yeah.
It was either the Lamborghini Murcielago, because it was just...
obnoxious.
It was so badass.
It was.
Like at the time when that came... That was the first car that came out when Audi took them over. And everybody thought that Audi was going to tone them back in being German.
Yeah.
But they came out with that and it was just astonishing.
It was.
And it was either that for me or the Countach.
Oh, both strong contenders. I think the Countach would be better. I like the old school Lamborghini look rather than the Murcielago has like a little bit of bubbly back.
Yeah, I
like the corners.
They went through different phases, right? And Countach was just that phase where there was just like, you know what? Like, does it look obnoxious enough? And the Italian go, no, we put it here. And they just slap the spoiler on, and they go,
yeah,
is that done? They go, no, we put this one here.
Yeah, they when they thought about, is it practical? No. Can you see out the back? No.
Can we fit another vent in this little hole?
Yes.
Right? And it was like, can the tire be even wider than it already is now? Yes. Right? And that was a great thing about Lamborghini. It was like, can we do this? We'll just make it work.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. It was like the thought of making it fit came after.
And that is the best thing about Italian cars.
That is the best thing about Italian cars. They went, what's cool? Big tires. Let's buy them.
Yep.
How are we going to fit them? We'll figure that out later.
Yeah. And, which spoiler should we get?
All of them.
Yep. And we'll find the biggest one that fits and put it on.
Well, then we'll release it in 3 different variants with 3 different spoilers.
Yep.
And whichever one people like, they'll buy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. And funny story that a lot of people know about the Countach. I think it was the Countach. But the Countach, when it was actually released, it did not pass its roadworthy, right, with the European standards at the time because of this spoiler in terms of crumple zones and things like that. And Lamborghini, the way they got around it was they said, all right, we'll take the spoiler off. And when it got to the dealer, there was a man with a drill. And he'd just drill them all in and they'd sell them with the spoilers.
That's it.
Right?
Perfect.
And they're all just aftermarket.
That's it.
Too late now.
They wanted it.
Yeah.
We got to give it to them.
But
customer's
honestly,
always right.
Lamborghini's just one of those brands I can't argue. I think all their big V12 Lambos that they've ever done
are amazing.
They're all amazing.
Yeah.
100%.
All amazing. And if you've watched Clarkson's Farm, then the latest greatest Lamborghini.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 10-ton machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big Bertha.
That's it. Let us know if you know what we're talking about. But I think it's a great list that we've made.
Yeah.
There's definitely some cool cars in there and some very generic cars.
And if you own any of them and we could have the chance to have a chat to you.
Yes.
And see your car and take us for a drive and maybe even give us the keys. Wink, wink. Reach out.
Yeah. Let us know. But that'll be us for today. Thank you very much for listening and stay tuned. Join us every Monday and Friday at 4 p.m. when we release new episodes.
Yep.
And
we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Thank you very much.